Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the More of a Six podcast. Unfortunately, we don't have Henry this week, so I am going to be filling in and doing my best at hosting. We've had a great weekend of Premier League football, lots of games, lots of goals, and lots to talk about. We're going to start off with Friday night. West Ham v Chelsea at the London Stadium. Game week 2 kicked off quickly at the London Stadium as Lucas Paqueta smashed one in from 20 yards to give the Hammers the lead just 6 minutes in. However, things capitulated once again for the Irons from that moment on as the Blues eased through to a 5-1 win, further piling the pressure on Graham Potter. As West Ham conceded 5 at home for the third time in the last 10 months. Awful stat. João Pedro and Essa were the stand-up performers for Chelsea. I'm going to start with you, Matt. Did you watch much of the game? What did you think about it?
Yeah, I did. I was just in the pub, to be honest. So, yeah, I did watch most of it. Just West Ham again, just really poor, really easily manipulated. There's just no idea, really. There's just, you got a double pivot of what was it, Souček and Ward-Prowse. That's not going to work against this sort of mobile Chelsea midfield. It was a recipe for disaster, really.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. I think also a stand-up performer was Caicedo. I thought he kind of just bullied them a bit in midfield.
He
And
does.
like you said, Ward-Prowse and Souček. I've seen a lot of West Ham fans online saying themselves that they just kind of gave up after that point. Kyle, what did you make of the game? Did you catch any of it yourself?
Yeah, so I too was at the pub, so I managed to watch the whole game. And West Ham just looked really, really bad. Like, there's no sugarcoating it, really. They just did look so bad. But I was really impressed with Estevao. I believe he got the man of the match. I said the week before on a podcast when he came on against Palace, I thought that he looked quite bright for the time that he was on, and that it would be quite interesting to see if he could get a start against West Ham and see what he could do. And yeah, just every time he got the ball, he just had real intent behind it. He would drive at defenders. He showed no fear, and I think that's something that's quite easily done when you're as young as he is. But the fact that he's only 18 and he's came over from Brazil, it's his first few games in Europe, and he's playing like that already. He should have really have scored a goal. That pass by Reece James really deserved a goal in the end of it. He just looks a real top talent. And pains me to say it, me being a Spurs fan and it being Chelsea, but he could be some player.
No, I agree. I think he's definitely got a big future. I want to especially ask you, Matt. Obviously, played for you last season, was one of your best players, João Pedro. How good can he be for Chelsea? Because he was, I thought, really good the other night. Obviously a goal, but also the 2 assists. What is his ceiling at Chelsea?
Honestly, he's already elevated his ceiling. I think just being in Maresca's system has already sort of elevated his ceiling and elevated his floor even. But he's got all the attributes to be at the very top, and he's adding a lot more goals to his game. He was a bit of a pen merchant last season and in previous years for us, but obviously he's a lot more than a pen merchant. He scored some good goals for us, and he might like 15-year-olds, but yeah. No.
If you want to learn more about that, obviously just search up João Pedro 15. You'll find out a lot about that. He loves scoring 15 goals. No, but I do think you're right. I think even just stepping in the Club World Cup straight away, I feel like he's one of them players that being around better players, he'll be better.
Yeah.
And I think he's definitely got a big future ahead of him. Obviously West Ham awful again, but yeah, it's not looking good for them at the moment. We're going to swiftly move on to the second game of the weekend. Kyle, I'm sure you're happy we're going to be touching on this. An absolutely brilliant performance from Thomas Frank's Spurs. Saturday's early kickoff showcased City hosting Spurs in a tightly contested affair. Almost. Despite controlling the ball for significant periods of the game, City were thwarted by a smart run by Richarlison, who squared across to Johnson to strike home. A second goal was added by new signing Palhinha following a Trafford mistake. And to be honest, City never really looked like scoring. Spurs were so good defensively. Romero was a standout player. No one better to go to first than you, Kyle. What did you think of the performance?
You know what? I think if we compare it to the previous 2 seasons, right? I love Postecoglou for what he did for us, like winning the Europa League. But that whole kind of personality of where he didn't change the way we played, no matter who we played, really did come back to bite us a good few times last season. Whereas Frank, he is showcased in the last 2 weeks against Burnley as one completely different type of opponent, and then Man City, the complete polar opposite, that he's so easily adaptable to who he plays. And I think that has helped us massively. I mean, I don't know if any of you will probably talk about it when it comes to either of you two, but Pap Matar Sarr in that midfield was absolutely brilliant. Like, absolutely brilliant. He was everywhere. He absolutely bullied that City midfield. Palhinha as well just seemed to snuff out every single bit of danger, really. He was winning first duels, second duels, and I think that was kind of the story of the game. But the midfield battle, we just did win. Romero was super aggressive in the challenges. I think his yellow card was really, really harsh, to be honest. It was a brilliant tackle on Oscar Bob, but I think just all around the midfield battle, the midfield won us that game on Saturday. They were absolutely brilliant.
No, I completely agree. I think I'll quickly go to Matt because we have our little group chat, and whilst we were watching the games, we were all talking about it. And Matt you did mention Sarr. How good was he yesterday? What did you think about that performance?
Yeah, I've always been a massive fan of Sarr, to be honest, since he came in. Was it 2022? I think he came in back from loan. I liked him under Conte even, but he's just outstanding. There's not a blade of grass he doesn't cover. He's the perfect midfielder, really, especially for a Thomas Frank team, and he was really misprofiled. He makes really, really good runs as well. I noticed he was often in the last line. He was sort of stretching the City defence, and that was really effective. But I do want to touch on Palhinha as well, and Bentancur as well. But Palhinha in particular, I genuinely don't think I saw him lose a single duel or aerial or whatever it was, but he just wasn't losing. He was outstanding. And that just goes to the whole Spurs team and the tactical setup. Again, going back to the adaptability thing, personally, I'm a big fan of when coaches do adapt to their opponent as well. And Thomas Frank, yeah, this Spurs top 4 shout is looking better by the week.
It really is. It really is. And to be honest, I felt yesterday, I remember I was watching the game with my dad, actually. I said to him, I said, this Spurs midfield, that's a competitive midfield. That's like up there in the Premier League. Like, Palhinha was so good at Fulham, obviously. We all knew that. And they have massively missed him since he left, I think. And he's just so, like we said, so competitive. He barely loses a duel. And I remember, I can't remember whose shot it was, but in the second half, probably on about 60 minutes, he blocked a shot just inside the box. And he gets up and he's celebrating to himself before he gets back into position. I just feel like the players clearly want to play for Frank. Already, he's got this culture where they all want to play for him. And I thought that can only be a good sign, I think, with a manager. And yeah, they just look brilliant again. And I think you could be in for a very good season, Carl.
Romero.
But I did want to ask.
Sorry,
yeah, obviously Romero.
I was going to say top 5 in the world. I'm saying it here. I know Sam disagrees, so he can't really back himself. But next week he can come for me. But top 5 in the world, I'm telling you.
I was going to ask you, Kyle, obviously the defence is great. The midfield looked brilliant. You did look good in the attacks where you had your moments. Obviously, you were more playing on the break. Obviously, I've seen a lot more lately in the media that apparently you're still pushing for Savinho. Let's say you can get Savinho in. Is that enough, do you think, for the Spurs side to really push on? Or is there another position that you've mentioned before about the 10? Is there another player you'd love to see Spurs sign as well as Savinho?
I think we do need a 10. I think it's always been the same story with Spurs of where we start off really well each year and then the inevitable happens where injuries hit and the people who we have to come in to replace them just maybe aren't up to par. Maybe players have stayed for a little bit too long than what they should have done. And it will happen. We will have injuries. I mean, Kulusevski and Maddison out already during pre-season or the end of last season as well. So it will happen. So I think we do need a 10. Bit of a situation with Nico Paz at the moment, but obviously with Real Madrid having a buyback clause of 10 million euros next summer, it's one of them of whether does he come to us and then just go to Madrid next season where they will obviously pay that money because he looks brilliant. Got a goal and assist tonight.
Phenomenal tonight.
There's no way.
That assist was gorgeous.
Sorry,
and the
10
free
mil?
kick as well.
That can't be right. There's no way.
Well, but you'd think. I think a lot of people thought at the time because he was all right at Madrid. You know, he featured a fair amount for the first team. He had promising signs. Lots of people were probably thinking, why have they sold him? And they probably knew all along that they've got this clause and that there wasn't much risk in it. But yeah, no, I completely agree. I think Spurs do need a 10. But regardless, I think you're in for a very exciting season. You know, a manager that can get all the players wanting to play for him and is very adaptable, like you said. Could be a good one for you boys. We're going to move on to the 3 p.m. kickoffs from yesterday. We're recording on Sunday night, just so you know. Bournemouth 1, Wolves 0. Following their high performance away at Anfield on the opening evening of the new Premier League season, Bournemouth started quickly against the struggling Cunulus Wolves side, with Marcus Tavernier scoring for the Cherries just 4 minutes in. A tightly contested affair, Wolves went down to 10 men early on in the second half after Totti Gomez was dismissed for bringing down Evan Nilsson as he was through on goal. Obviously, we might not have got to catch much of these. Obviously, the games aren't necessarily on TV. But did you boys manage to see any of the highlights or watch much of the game? And if so, I'll start with you, Matt. Is it looking bad for Wolverhampton Wanderers? We spoke about West Ham, obviously, but is it looking bad for Wolves?
Yes, because you take a player out as effective as Cunha and sell him for, was it 60, I think? You've got to spend some of that money, like majorly, not just on these sort of 10, 15 million pound players. You need someone to come in and replace that output immediately, and they haven't done that. They've brought in a couple of like low risk, high reward signings, such as John Arias. I think he was at 15, 20, 25. What was he? I can't remember, but
something around there, yeah.
Fer Lopez, I don't know much about. He looks. I don't know. I'm not really sold, to be honest. But apart from that, it was a right back. I think. I can't name their transfers, to be honest. They haven't really had any standouts. And again, you'd like to think so. They would, but they just haven't brought in anyone, wow, look at this.
I think that's a major point as well. I think it's all just very uninspiring. If I was a Wolves fan, you've just lost like a player who's like a once in a generation kind of player to play for a club of our kind of level. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's been already at Manchester United. He's made a huge impact. He was great in the first game of the season. Earlier today, obviously, we'll touch on that in a bit. But I thought he was really good again. He looks so sharp, makes a real difference. And they've just not really, brought in anyone that like gets you off your seat. Do you know what I mean? I feel like, yeah, like I said, if I was a Wolves fan, I wouldn't be chuffed about that. Bournemouth, on the other hand, looked, a win. They looked great against Liverpool as well. What should they be aiming for this season, Carl? Bournemouth? They've got, some good players. Obviously, a great manager. What's the ceiling here for this Bournemouth team?
I mean, where did they come last season? Was it 10th, 9th?
10th, 11th, I think, around that kind of range.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, it's a huge loss, Huijsen and Zabani going. But I think the fact that Areola is still there and like he is a top manager, I don't think it will be too long before he's one of the real high teams. I think they could push maybe for the Conference League, maybe. And that's not necessarily me saying that they will get it, but I think they could give a good they'll have a good go at trying to get to it, I reckon. And I think if they get anywhere near that again, I think that's definitely something to build off. Losing players like Huijsen and Zabani as well to begin with, that's something that they could definitely build upon.
Yeah, well, obviously 2 brilliant centre-backs. I mean, they've gone to the 2 best teams in the world probably, right? Real Madrid and PSG. Obviously hard to replace. But no, Bournemouth could have a great year. They've definitely got some players that can make a real difference. I really like Evan Nilsson, obviously. Even if he's not scoring goals like yesterday, he gets a red card because he's just a handful. We'll move on from current Bournemouth to previous Bournemouth. Brentford beat Villa 1-0. Tipped by many to face the drop, Keith Andrews' Brentford had their first game at home of the 25-26 season as they faced up against the Villa side who failed to score on the opening day against Newcastle. The Bees started fast as new signing Dango Ouattara scored a goal on the break on 12 minutes, with his strike being the only one of the game. Villa were disappointing again. What are your thoughts on them and Brentford scoring their first points of the season? Obviously, despite us, kind of all saying here on the podcast that we were a bit underwhelmed with their replacements and with the manager. Kyle, I'll start with you because obviously you've got their old manager. Brentford getting their first points. Villa's not an easy side to beat. What do you make of that?
They're not an easy side to beat, but I mean, last week as well against Newcastle, they didn't look great. They've just not had a great window really, but I think a lot of that comes down to the fact that they spend near 96% of their money on wages, so it makes it so difficult to actually operate in the transfer market. They're having to look at into like the loan market. I managed to watch the full first half of it before travelling back up to Lincoln, but they just didn't really seem to create much. They didn't really seem to bother Brentford too much. And considering how poor Brentford were the week before against Forest, it's not a great sign at all, really, for Villa. 1 point out of an opening 6 for a side that are wanting to try and push for Champions League again. I know it's obviously early days, but the top teams, they don't drop those points against that sort of team. So obviously it's very early days, but the early signs there, it's not really something to be too happy about. They've just not created enough in either of their games yet.
No, I definitely agree. And I actually wanted to use the opportunity where we're speaking about Villa to potentially speak about a wider issue. Obviously, they've had problems this summer with recruitment. They can't really sign many players. They've got lots of limitations from PSR. They had to sell a great homegrown talent in Jacob Ramsey, which I don't know if you boys saw, but there were lots of posts on Instagram and social media from other players kind of confused about that sale, didn't really get it. Matt, I want to come to you. What more broadly, PSR as a concept, do you think it's limiting for these sides? And obviously, sides like ours, outside of the Big Six, do you think it kind of stops us from being able to progress and compete with the bigger teams?
Yeah, definitely. I think Villa have given it a right go at competing at the very top, because you pay top dollar for top players, and they did with Rashford and Asensio, for example. But I think so. It's really unfair on the non-big six teams that don't have as much income, for example, as the Chelseas. You look at Newcastle as well. It's making it impossible for these Newcastles, Villas, whoever else to compete. I just think it's really unfair.
Not Forest. They still seem to manage to spend 100 million a week, don't they?
and Forest, to be fair, I mean, they had points deductions as well, but that was when that's when they weren't very good. It's just the whole concept is just unfair and very biased, dare I say.
No, I definitely do think it's limiting. And I think last summer, obviously, Newcastle, you mentioned having to sell Elliot Anderson, who's obviously been great at Forest, but
And Minter.
I just don't, and obviously, and Minter, yeah, I just don't think it can be a good thing for a Premier League, or for the Premier League, where these local lads coming through academies at teams are being, these clubs are being forced to sell them. That's the reason you support football. Especially, I can say this with Eze leaving this week, is a player that comes from the area that your team's from. You want to see them playing for the team. Everyone wants to see that. And I don't think it's a good thing for the Prem that these teams are not being able to keep these players. But
the thing is, though, the thing is that they do spend a crazy amount of money on wages. Luca Digne is on near 140 grand a week. He would be out. I'm pretty sure he would be our third highest paid player. Like, they have
no, I do think that's fair. And also they have, I feel like people do forget with Villa and also maybe with Forest, they've spent a lot of money. Like, maybe their struggles this summer, and it might be similar with Newcastle having to Anderson last summer, maybe their struggles are coming as a result of their past actions, because Villa have spent a lot of money in the last few seasons, a lot of big signings. Yeah, so look, as much as it is a limitation, it's also, you're not just not going to be able to spend because you can't spend, It comes as a result of other things too. But yeah, I also want to touch on Dango Ouattara. Obviously, lots of people raised eyebrows at that signing. Didn't really make much sense. A lot of money for a team like Brentford to be paying for a player that kind of isn't really even a first choice at Bournemouth. But obviously, we've spoke before, Matt, on the podcast about Brentford's recruitment being similar to Brighton's. Have they done it again?
In terms of a signing like that, I don't think so. I think with that signing, they've been very, very direct. Clearly, they've seen some underperforming value in Dango Ouattara, whereas we see, the potential, I suppose, but also that, Dango does have very, very high potential as well. Similar to Brighton, as I say, I think they've been more direct, but it's I'd say, yeah, in a way, but yeah, a lot of people questioning the fee, but good player, versatile. There's a lot to like about Dango, and that goal was where he scored. The way he sped past Pau Torres like he's walking in mud. And what he took it round. Was Martinez backing? He was backing goal, wasn't he?
He was
Villa,
backing
yeah.
goal, yeah.
And yeah, just slots it calmly. He's a good player. I've always liked him, to be honest.
Well, it just goes to show that result. That obviously Villa drawing to Newcastle last weekend, Brentford getting battered by Forest, and then Brentford beating Villa. Anything can happen in the Premier League, and that was also shown in the Burnley game. Obviously, we haven't been shy here on More of a Six in our views on Scott Parker's Burnley side, with Sam essentially suggesting there was not a single player they could possibly sign that would keep them in the Premier League. The Clarets faced the Sunderland side, who shocked West Ham on the opening day with a massive 3-0 win. Both Josh Cullen and Jayden Anthony notched a goal and an assist each, as Burnley won 2-0 in their first home game of the season, scoring their first Premier League goal since Josh Cullen's strike on the final day 2 seasons ago against Forest. This means that after just 2 match days, each of the promoted sides have won a game in the Premier League, which took until November last season. Do we have any apologies that we want to make, boys? Or are we standing by what we're saying? I'll start with you, Matt.
Nah, I don't. Leeds look better than I thought they did. Burnley, nah, they're rotting in 20th, I'm afraid.
Yeah, no, fair enough. More generally, though, obviously what I just said about it taking until November for all 3 teams to win a Premier League game. I'll come to you, Kyle. Is this a good sign for the Premier League generally? That we're 2 games in and every team has won. Is it going to be a more competitive season this year?
I mean, you could take, like, for example, the window that Sunderland have had, like the players that they've brought in. I would have never have imagined, like, with all respect to them, but like Luton Town to be able to have this, like, the same type of window. I do think this is probably the first year in quite a while where I thought, you know what, like, there's maybe more than one team who could probably give it a good go at staying up. Because I mean, Leeds the other week against Everton, they looked all right. I mean, I know obviously we will touch on Leeds getting absolutely hammered by Arsenal, but you know, it's Arsenal, so like they are a good side. But I think, yeah, it does go to show that I think the gap is maybe slightly getting a bit closer, because we've all had in our predictions, a lot of us have had like a Premiership side to get relegated. People have said about West Ham, people have said about Wolves, people have said about Brentford. So that shows that they do back one of the promoted teams to stay up, which I don't think you could say the same maybe the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, I'm just going to... Don't worry, the smoke alarm stopped. I thought I would have to go and deal with that, but no, we're all sorted. Hopefully the house isn't on fire. We're going to continue. Yeah, I think you're right. I feel like, the gap's a little bit small. I also think that this year, 2 of the 3 teams that have come up, I don't want to offend anyone. Obviously, they are a big club. They've had a lot of success in the past, Burnley, but I think especially the 2 in Leeds and Sunderland, 2 massive football clubs coming up from the Championship. And similar to what you said about Luton maybe not being able to have a window that Sunderland could have, there is that kind of attraction of a big stadium, such a passionate fan base, and, being a big club that come into a club like Sunderland is like exciting for a player that maybe it wouldn't be the same with Luton. Matt, obviously Sunderland, they started really well. First game of the season, surprised everyone. Maybe some people got a bit ahead of themselves. Not to name names, but Corey. But obviously, Burnley kind of humbled them a bit. What do you think? Sunderland still got a good... Obviously, we're 2 games in, but can we read much into this? Maybe they're not a finished article?
A little. I think the goals they conceded were quite poor, and they did have a lot of good chances as well. I did watch the highlights back. There's bits to see and bits to read into, but if you're Sunderland, if you're Burnley, this is a game you must win.
No, definitely. I feel like I did think that. I felt obviously, it's just one game on the day. Really, like you think of that now, but it's one of them games that you look back at the end of the season. Where will Sunderland, look back at this and think, wow, But they're going to look about everyone else beat Burnley this season but us. But we are going to move on from that game to the Arsenal game. Obviously, you mentioned, Carl, after an electric Ellen Road performance on Monday, Daniel Farke's Leeds faced a huge challenge in a visit to the Emirates in Saturday's late kickoff. Arsenal came off the back of a strong win against an impressive United side last weekend. A brace each for Timber and new signing Gyökeres, as well as a goal for Saka, led Arsenal to a 5-0 win. An added bonus for the Gunners was the full professional debut for 15-year-old Max Dowman, who showed promise when he got the ball. However, the positives were overshadowed by injuries to Saka and Odegaard, who were both prematurely forced off the pitch. Can we read? Obviously, look, I saw someone say on Twitter before the game, Arsenal will win 5-0 today and they'll all think they're going to win the league. Can we read too much into this, Matt? Or, is it obviously Leeds looked good on Monday and obviously Everton looked good today. So, like I said, anyone can beat anyone. But can we? Was this a really good performance by Arsenal? Can we? Is this a good sign for the Gunners fans?
Yeah, it's 3 points. It's beating a side at home you should be beating, well, not just beating, but absolutely demolishing. Gyökeres 2 goals, Dalman minutes, but it's also going back to the Odegaard and Saka injury. So I guess it's a step forward, a step back in that regard. You lose Saka, just a key player. But that is also the thing you see Madueke being brought in, just to reduce the risk of injury for Saka and reduce his minutes. And now that he has been injured, Madueke is going to come in and the ceiling or the floor even isn't going to drop as much as it would, say, Trossard, say, Nwaneri. And that's more or less what I think is a good signing as well.
Yeah, and also, obviously, they're not going to need Martin Odegaard now because they've got the King of South London, Ebre Eze. So, yeah. Obviously, Gyökeres, Carl, obviously, you probably don't want to talk too much about Arsenal doing well. It might hurt, but he did score. That first goal was a good goal, cutting well. I did see someone online say that he looked like Paul Merson in a charity match, which made me laugh because he does run like a little bit like ex-pros when they play these charity matches.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
I thought that was fairly accurate, but he scored it. It was a good goal, really good goal. Beat defenders well, scored it in the near post. Does this change maybe what we all thought that he might be able to do at Arsenal this season, Carl?
Richarlison's still outscoring him. No, I don't know. It was a good goal. I'll give him credit. But again, we do have to look at the context of that. It looks like it was an already beaten Leeds side. They just did not look like they were really able to put up much of a fight against Arsenal. Arsenal just were really at the races that day. They looked defensively superb. Declan Rice was sniffing out every bit of counter-attacking football, if you could call it that, really. So, I mean, yeah, it was a well-taken goal, but I'm not convinced yet. I would quite like to see him Liverpool next week. I think that will be the real... If he performs there and is able to have a good game there, then absolutely questions can be asked of, he might be a very, very good signing. But for now, I'm still kind of holding judgment.
No, Jeff, I think that's fair as well. We can't, put too much pressure on him. Did any of you boys have Timber on FPL?
No.
I haven't checked the league yet.
I haven't even checked my FPL.
Did you see the absolute wrong'un that triple captained him? Because whoever you are out there, you are a weirdo. Because, what did he get? He got a clean sheet, 2 goals and an assist.
It's like 72 points, I think it was.
That is absolutely outrageous. Like I said, I saw someone on Twitter just before I went on the app and looked at the highest points thing, Someone said, I just know some absolute wrong'un out there as triple captain Timber. And yeah, it writes itself. But yeah, no, I thought Arsenal looked good. I thought that obviously, like you said, Matt, they should be beating Leeds by 5 goals. Obviously on paper they should be, but it's never as easy to do it in motion. But yeah, I thought Gyökeres' goal was good. I like the celebration for the second. I don't know if you caught that.
Yeah, it's a hair, wasn't it?
I thought that was funny. But it's a good performance for Arsenal. Like you said, can't read too much into it. It is a Leeds side that to kind of looked a bit beaten before the game even properly started. Daniel Farke may be out of his depth. A couple of us have said it. But we're going to actually move on from Arsenal to the Sunday games, and we're going to start with my beloved Crystal Palace. I was at Selhurst Park today for the funnily labelled El Clasico, which took place this afternoon, with Palace taking the lead in the first half through a nicely worked move that was finished off brilliantly by Ismaila Sarr once again. Palace dominated the first half, but were less effective in the second, as Hudson-Odoi equalised for Forest after a perfect through ball. I don't know if either of you boys have seen this. I know you were probably watching
Yeah, it's brilliant.
the game, Matt.
I've seen the highlights.
But that through ball from Ndoi was gorgeous. I don't know if you meant it, a bit like the Anderson one last week. I don't know if you meant it, but that was unbelievable. But the biggest takeaway of the day for me was the sheer lack of quality on Palace's bench in comparison to Forest, as the Reds brought on over 100 million worth of talent, whilst Palace brought on free transfer Jefferson Lerma, youngster Romain Esse, and an out-of-favour Odsonne Edouard who didn't play a single minute for Leicester City last season.
Really?
He didn't play a single minute.
Oh my God.
And he's coming on for Crystal Palace. It's an absolute joke. Obviously, you're probably watching the Brighton game, Matt, so I'll start with Kyle if you caught any of it. What did you think of Palace? What did you think of Forest? Have you seen the highlights?
I'm going to disappoint here, lads. I was at work practically the whole day, and the only game I've been able to watch was the Man United Fulham game.
Well, there you go. We'll come to you later. Then you can be the. I'll talk then about Palace then. So I've got a lot. I've got a lot I need to say. First of all, I don't know if any of you boys saw the tifo.
It was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
The tifo. I think that was phenomenal. I do think though. There may be a libel case coming our way.
Which there is.
Could be problematic. But he did say Mr. Marinakis is not involved with match fixing, bribery, corruption, or drug smuggling. He's not involved with any of those. We just want to clarify. But no, I thought that was good. I also think, I don't know if you saw the tifo at the start of the game regarding the FA Cup. It said born in glass, etched in silver. Crystal Palace, obviously, style glass, won the cup. Picture of Joe Ward with the cup. I thought that was nice as well. But no, I think we started the game really well today. We were good on the ball. We created chances. Devaney is just not a 10 though. It's so I love him and I want him to do so well because he's from, obviously we bought him from Ireland, but he's come through the academy a bit, but he's just not. He can't attack. He's great up and down and he works really hard, but it is painful when he gets on the ball. I just thought second half, though, Forest really stepped it up. Marinakis must have friended all their families in the change room at half-time because they all came out like they wanted to win. Matt, I know you said you saw the assist from Ndoi. Great goal last week. Great assist this week. Dan Ndoi, good replacement for Elanga, do you think?
Yeah, I think with Elanga, you have more of a transitional threat, whereas Dan Ndoi is more of a complete footballer. Very, very intelligent player. You probably saw him at the Euros. You might have seen him at Bologna every now and then. But yeah, he's really definitely a complete winger. I'd say he's fast, and I think definitely intelligence is his main sort of skill. And you see that with his assist. It's an outrageous assist. And as proven last week as well, he can score goals. He's full package, and I think that's reflected in Forest's style of play as well. They have a lot more build up, I think. Whereas last year with Elanga, they're a lot more direct. Was it like that today? Do you think?
What was that at the end? Sorry.
So last year they were a lot more direct with Elanga, but this year they seem to be building out a little bit more.
Their goal was on the break.
Yeah, it was
they won the back. They won the ball back high up, or not high up, even deep. And Ndoi just swept one ball through. Hudson-Odoi absolutely burnt Mitchell for pace, kind of embarrassed him and slid it in their post. But no, to be fair, for the vast majority of the second half, they had the ball and they built up well. They didn't really create much. To be honest, after they scored, there was a fella sat next to me and I said to him, I was like, this was ending 1-1. It just was one of them games neither teams looked like scoring.
Yeah.
A big takeaway, though, for me, I thought, was Gibbs White was just unbelievable. It was a little flick he did in the build-up where they almost scored. And, again, I was chatting to the guy next to me. I was just like, he's an absolute joke of a player. Obviously, I'm going to come to you here, Carl. I know that you didn't watch the game, but realistically, should a player like Gibbs White be playing for Forest, or does he deserve to be playing in the Champions League every week?
Well, no, he shouldn't be playing for a club like Forest because he should be a Spurs player. I don't actually get how that has like been able to happen. He should be a Spurs player. We've paid a release clause. He deserves to be playing Champions League, and I think that one hurts more than the Eze saga purely because there was always that kind of little thought in the back of my head of like, he is an Arsenal fan, and like I just feel like Arsenal will come knocking. When they hear us in for him. But I think Gibbs White, because of how like keen he was to join, and he like there was reports after saying that he'd phoned Thomas Frank to apologise for like how everything like turned out, and he's just like, you know what, it's gutting to not have a player like that at Spurs because he would have been so good for us, like so good.
He's such a Rolls Royce of a footballer. Like, genuinely, I think one of my favourite players in the Premier League to watch. You said you don't know how that move didn't happen. I think we explained it fairly well on our TIFO today. We're going to swiftly move on from that, though, to the Brighton game. Matt, I know you probably won't want to talk about it, but Everton's long-awaited first game at their brilliantly named, as we've already mentioned on the podcast, Hill Dickinson Stadium, took place this afternoon as the Seagulls travelled up to Merseyside for their first away tie of the season. Everton netted in the first half as Grealish flashed one across the box on his first start for Everton, and it was met by Iliman Ndiaye to give the Toffees the lead. The lead was then doubled as Grealish added his second assist with a gorgeous drive into the near post by James Garner. It was a wasteful afternoon for the Seagulls, with Danny Welbeck missing a huge chance in the first half, and Matoma hitting the bar, and it was topped off and kind of summed up by Danny Welbeck's penalty being saved by Jordan Pickford in the second. Matt, what was the problem today for Brighton? I mean, look, I think it's fairly self-explanatory. I looked at the XG philosophy, tweeted out the XG after the game. But what was the big problem? Are there any other takeaways, do you think, of today?
You just summed it up. You're bringing it all back to me. I thought we were good, to be honest. I thought, we had the better chance in the first half. Everton only really had 2, 3, 4 chances, to be honest. And we played some really nice football. Our patterns were good, and that's something we lacked last season. But for the first goal, we gave Grealish way too much respect and way too much space. And then Jai's just free at the back post. Maxim de Kuyper, I don't know what he's thinking. He's fallen half asleep and lost his man. And for the other goal, it's a bit of a flash now, but it's a good goal. You can't really take anything away from it. But from then on, we didn't really look like scoring until we got the penalty, and it was just a typical Brighton day. It was just one of those days where we're creating chances and missing them. We had a couple of good chances in the first half. I don't know if you saw that Matoma chance, but the way he got in behind Tarkowski and then lobbed it over him.
Gorgeous.
Hit the bar. It was quite similar to his Chelsea goal last year, but again, there's not many players in world football that can do stuff like that. And, you look at his Chelsea goal as well last year. But it's just let down as well today. I think Belabba was poor. He got dragged at half time. O'Reilly was dog shit. Welbeck was dog shit. And to my surprise, Dunk...
You don't sound too happy.
No. No. To my surprise, Dunk was one of the better players today, to be honest. So, but on to Oxford, I guess. Hopefully a morale boost. But look, our fixtures are horrible. I've got to find something. But I think we got like all of City, Tottenham, Chelsea. Who else? We got a few other tough teams, Bournemouth in there as well. In the next sort of 4 or 5 games, so it's not looking good for us, to be honest. You start, we usually start very well, but we're going to drop off.
You think? Well, that's a bold shout. I do definitely. Look, before the season started, obviously, look, we haven't seen any of Kostulas, Simas. Obviously, you could be good players through the season. We don't know.
And that's another thing, actually. We've spent 40, 50 mil worth on strikers, Greek strikers. Neither of them in the squad. We're going into a season with 34-year-old Danny Welbeck as our only fit striker option. We sent Evan Ferguson out on loan to Roma, and fair dues to him, he got player of the match on his first game. He looked really, really sharp. But it's just disappointing that we're going into the season with these striker options. Rutter wasn't available today. He picked up a small injury yesterday. It's the depth in attack. And we got Seema, we got Buonanotte. With Chelsea, with the bomb squad, it's quite like that. they're just sitting there rotting. Like either
No,
get rid of them or
definitely.
get them in.
No, I do definitely. And I look, I had one of my best friends is a Brighton fan, and I had this conversation with him not too long ago that you've spent like a fair amount this summer and last summer, and I just still think there's just not enough up top, like especially with Pedro leaving. I just don't think there is that. I don't think there's enough goals in that Brighton attack, you know.
I agree. Yeah,
Um,
it's
and I think that, we saw that today. Like it was a 2.38 xG to obviously xG is one statistic, but 2.38 to I think Everton had like 1.7 or something along those lines. But you had some huge chances today, and obviously, Welbeck has been great for you across the years. I think he was a really good signing when he came in, and he can score goals for you. And look, he could there's a fair chance he'll score 9 goals maybe this season. But if you I know as a Brighton fan, I know what you want. You want to be kicking on and pushing for Europe this year. You know, it was disappointing last year that you just missed out, but obviously it was a transitional season. I feel like you just need a striker that is going to be scoring more, and it does seem like you're done with your business for this season.
We did all our business early, and there's no links, there's nothing. It's just the players we got and the group we got to work with. Look, Kostulas and Simas could be great, but let's get them in ASAP. If they're really, if Kostulas in particular is really worth 30 mil, Simas we bought for 20 as well in January. Get him in. We got Oxford in the Carabao Cup, as I said. Just play him. Oh, it's just this attack thing, the striker thing, just pains me. Really does.
Yeah, well, obviously, big football clubs don't have to play in this round of the Carabao Cup, so I can't relate. But I'm sure Carl can't either. But no, I'm just joking. But Everton. Obviously, you watched 90 minutes. I'll quickly go to Carl first, though. I know you didn't catch this game, like you said, because you're at work. But obviously, look, they started poorly on Monday, and we all spoke about how bad they actually were against Leeds. It was never an easy fixture, though. First game of the season for a promoted team, going away from home. A ground like Ellen Road, always very lively. But Everton, obviously, Brighton aren't a bad side. We know Brighton aren't a bad side, and they're not easy to beat. But Everton did what they had to today, and obviously a great goal by James Garner, brilliant debut for Jack Grealish. What is a realistic target for Everton this season? What should they be pushing for?
Again, I'm going to ask the same question of whereabouts did they come last season? Was it around 13th? I think it was 13th, 14th. But yeah, obviously, they had the awful first half of the season that they and second half it's a completely different side, obviously. But yeah, I think it was around 13th, 14th. Yeah, so I'd probably say they could aim for maybe around 11th, 10th. I think if they carry on with the form that they finished off last season with, obviously last week was a bit of a blip, but David Moyes is a cracking manager. They've brought Grealish in, got 2 assists. I believe Tyler Dibbling has been kind of not confirmed by the club yet, I don't think, but it's kind of been said online that he's pretty much going there. That's another top player, with a lot of potential.
It's good shout from our chief scout Matt Avery. There, out of nowhere as well. I don't know where he came up with that one, but
but yeah, no, I think 10th or 11th, around kind of mid-table, maybe pushing into the top half. I think that's probably a bit too early, but they've had a good window so far. I think they've brought in two real good players in Grealish and Dibbling. One for now, with a bit of experience, and then one maybe for a couple of years' times where he could really grow into a serious player.
Yeah, no, definitely. Tyler Dibling's got a big future. I think we all know from his cameos for Southampton last season. Obviously, Matt, you watched 90 minutes, I assume.
Yep. Unfortunately,
Tiano Barry. He didn't start the first game of the season, I don't think, against Leeds. You correct me if I'm wrong. He might have.
No, I didn't.
But right, he did start today. 64 minutes, he got subbed off. But what did you think of Barrett? Obviously, new signing. We've all alluded to he's a good signing. He could be very good for them. Do you think he was good for them today? Did he offer much? Did he cause problems for Brighton? Do you think?
Not majorly, to be honest. Didn't really notice him much. He was a bit pants, if I'm honest. You see Everton fans online, you might have said he was good today, but he didn't really cause us that much threat. I thought Beto was a bit more of a threat, and that really says something because Beto is crap. But yeah, not much. But the big issue was Njai, Grealish. I think we really struggle against direct 1v1 dribblers like them, and dribbling is only going to add to that attack. And Jai started on the right today. He's usually in the middle, and he's just going to give that direct sort of. It's like having Grealish on both sides, the fearless dribbling, if you get what I mean.
No, definitely. And also, I thought it really went to show, what people have said about Grealish with City, and the whole like Pep's drilled it out of him. Like it almost seemed instantaneous. Like you're playing for a different team now. He wanted to take people on. Obviously, the assist for the first goal, just like you said, direct, just like square a man up, shift it onto your left, and get a cross in. You never saw that at City. And I just think, obviously, look, obviously not today, Matt, and I'm sure it'll be the same when we play Everton and when you play Everton, Kyle. But I feel like everyone likes Jack Grealish, and we all want to see him do well, and it's just good to see him back, taking people on and doing what he does best, really. A bad day for your boys. Obviously, I was absolutely gutted to see the score as I was at Selhurst. But to be fair, we weren't very good in the second half either, so I can't say much at all. We're going to move on to the late kickoff this afternoon. Fulham 1, Manchester United 1 at Craven Cottage. Following on from their impressive performance last weekend against Arsenal, despite coming away with nothing, Amarim's New Look United travelled to a Fulham side who miraculously salvaged a point away at Brighton in the 96th minute last week. And once again, I was, of course, gutted to see that goal go in. United had a huge chance to take the lead in the first half as Cunha beautifully brought down long ball but was stopped at close range by Leno. Not long after, Bruno Fernandes then missed a penalty for the Red Devils, blazing it high and wide over the bar. I was gutted to see that again. He's in my FPL and not many people have him. So I thought that'd be a nice little win for me, but absolutely not. I am stinking up the gaff in FPL. In the second half, United took the lead as Yoro rose highest and headed off of Muniz into the back of the net. However, the lead didn't last long as Fulham went down the other end and equalised as Emil Smith-Rowe met a cross at the near post. Kyle, we're going to come to you because you mentioned that you watched the game. I listened to it on the radio, so I heard bits. I just watched the highlights. What do you think of United? Obviously lots of people were saying last week that they looked much better. But were they better today? Were you underwhelmed? What did you think?
They were all right. I mean, like they weren't great. They weren't bad. I suppose Fulham at times at home, that isn't the easiest place to go to. At times, it can be a potential banana skin, but they were okay. They had a few like real like kind of standouts that you could take positives from. Cunha looked really bright again. I think he is going to be like their guy this season, really. I thought Yoro as well. You mentioned about him, rising highest and it flicking off of Muniz. There was a few times actually where he put in a really good last ditch tackle to stop a Fulham counter attack. I thought he was really good. This was before United's goal, so the score was still 0-0 at the time. He looked really good. But yeah, there just wasn't really too much chance, like too many chances. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the stats today about Amarin. He's now played more games than he has points at United since he's joined. He's managed 29.
By the way, the media leaning towards like the mainstream. I'm talking like Sky, TNT, leaning towards hate watch statistics is a great move for the game. I think I was watching the Liverpool game against Bournemouth. On the opening night, and there was like a statistic that popped up, and it was about 4 inverts. I don't know if you boys saw this on Twitter. But it was like instead of like being like completed passes, like blah, 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 it was like dispossessed and how many touches, passes given away, and like that, and obviously what you said about Amarim. I just feel like that's such a great move for the game. But no, like you said, I watched the highlights. I caught bits on stream on my phone, but I was driving back from the football. My dad was, so stream is a bit dodgy, but. Yeah, I'm going to come to you next, Matt. Fulham, you obviously watched them for 90 minutes last week because they played your side. A point here as well. Not two pretty hard fixtures, away at the Amex isn't easy, and obviously Man United looked good last week. They probably came to the Craven Cottage thinking like this is a game we really need to win if we want to kick on. Fulham obviously got a point. Decent value for it as well. What do you think of Fulham? Like we mentioned Bournemouth this year and maybe Everton pushing on. A Fulham side that could be up there, in the top 10, maybe pushing on?
No, lack of investment is massively holding them back. They were crap last week as well. Got a lucky corner in the last minute, and I only really watched the first half today. Tiny bit of the second, but just typical Man United. Just I think their game management is really poor, and Fulham's is quite the opposite. It's Marco Silva wants to adapt in many ways, like Thomas Frank as well, and he'll change things. But yeah, their lack of investment. I think that it was like the Riverside stand cost way more than they thought it would, and that's really affected their summer budget. So they've had to bring in, I think, a free agent as their only signing. Is that right? Their only signing so far?
Oh, who did they bring in?
It's just LeConte.
Yeah, that's it. Lecomte in goal. Yeah, no, that's all they've brought in. Yeah,
And talks with that Kevin as well for 50 mil. I don't know where they're getting that 50 mil for.
Yeah, and also like a player that's, obviously look, with Premier League sides and the amount of money they invest in recruitment teams, and he's clearly going to be a decent footballer if you're willing to pay 50 million for him. But he's only really played. He plays for Shakhtar. He's only played in Brazil and Ukraine. Can you read too much into that in terms of ability? I'm not. I actually agree about Fulham. I feel like it's just holding them back, the lack of money they're willing to spend, and every other team apart from Palace so far. Obviously we've still got a week left of the window, but who've taken steps forward this summer. Brighton improved massively defensively. Lots of additions. Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Personnel-wise,
yeah.
But and obviously Spurs, Carl, brought in, not as many players as you maybe would have wanted, but obviously a new manager who's great. I think we can all agree on that. And Fulham, I just think, kind of standing still a bit. But no, look, it's a good point for them. Obviously, rescued one last week, and like you said, Matt, didn't necessarily play that well. If you can do that against Brighton away, not like I said, not an easy fixture. United at home, not an easy fixture. Obviously last season a bit of an easier fixture, but this season with how they've looked or how they looked last weekend, I think, it could be a good sign. Maybe with a bit of investment. Silva's a good manager. They could, maybe finish 12th this season. Obviously, it's not very exciting, but we're going to move on from the Prem. Okay, we're going to finish the Prem there. We're going to take a quick break, and we will be back shortly. We'll see you guys in a sec. So we are back from our small break, and we are going to start with the Championship. It was a manic Saturday in the Championship, with the most exciting game being a 7-1 win. Yes, 7 for Frank Lampard's Coventry against the toothless QPR in a game which marked Coventry City's 20th anniversary of their first match at the Coventry Building Society Arena. I don't know how I butchered that much. Coventry Building Society Arena, which they also won 3-0 against QPR. Lads, you can't concede 7 goals in a game.
We can. We can.
You can. You can. I'm sure QPR fans. I was actually at work yesterday, and I work in a pub. I work on the bar, for those that don't know. And there was a QPR fan that came up to the bar, and he looked really sad. I'm pouring him a pint, and I said, "What's going on, mate? You look a bit down." And he goes, "Oh, I'm a QPR fan." I go, "Oh, right, okay." And I obviously hadn't seen the score. And he goes, we're 5-0 down at half time. And I was like, God, what is going on? And then he goes off, right? He goes off, drinks his drink. I said to him as he left, I went, oh, well, I hope you boys have a miraculous comeback. I've got a bit of a soft spot for QPR with Eze and everything. And he comes back about an hour later to order food. And I go, oh, what's the score? He goes, 7-1. I was like, oh my God. That can't happen, can it, Matt? Like, that is outrageous.
It can. Yeah, well, being on the end of a 7-0 drubbing and being there myself, to be honest, we just made more of a laugh out of it at 4-0. we just celebrating every time a goal went in. So I hope the QPR fans found some humour in it. But what was good as well, 1920, Ryan Colley came over and apologised. And that, I think, speaks a lot about, or speaks volumes about the situation at QPR at the moment. Just lack of leadership and ownership, I suppose.
No, definitely. I think you're right, and I think also, obviously, they didn't lose him in a fashion where they had the choice. But Marty Cifuentes is obviously at Leicester now, who haven't been haven't necessarily started perfectly, but he is a great manager.
You see the
Fuentes is a good manager.
Fatu goal?
Yeah, phenomenal.
Screaming.
Absolutely outrageous goal. He's a player. I was thinking this. I didn't actually. You know when you see something, you think about something you want to say about it, but you don't actually tweet it. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
I thought about that. I was like, he needs a year in the Championship of getting the shit kicked out of him a bit and kind of getting used to that and English football. And I think he could play in the Premier League. I think he has glimpses of being like quite a good young footballer. Obviously, Coventry looked good. Lampard's Coventry. I did see someone on Twitter though say that obviously we're not at Tweet of the Week yet, but I did see someone say this is. I'm not going to put this forward as my Tweet of the Week. Say it was a video of him pumping his fist at the crowd, and someone put he is the perfect Championship manager, and he was like, I'm not going to elaborate on that, but he'll never quite cut in the Prem, but he is the perfect Championship manager, and I don't know why, but I completely agree. Hadji Wright with a brace, Jack Rudoni with a brace, Victor Torp with a brace, and obviously Brandon Thomas Asante, who I think was a really good signing when they brought him in. Coventry looked great. And Lampard's, obviously last season they were so unlucky not to come up with that last minute winner at the Stadium of Light by Dan Ballard. But they could have a great year this year and maybe push on. We're going to move on from the Championship because I'll be honest with you guys, we are Premier League football fans and we haven't paid much attention to the Championship because we've all been quite busy this weekend. But we are going to move on to everyone's new favourite segment. It's called Tweet of the Week. Obviously, earlier on the week, I mentioned the Graham Potter tweet regarding him being pictured by West Ham fans following their 3-0 defeat to Sunderland as Osama Bin Laden and Jeffrey Epstein. I'm sure that's not going to be any better after Friday night's result. But we're going to start with you, Kyle. Obviously, we're going to send all of these tweets to producer Sam. He's going to overlay them so you can all see them at home. We're going to start with Carl. What is your tweet of the week? I need you to put. You can put forward. You can mention a couple, but I need one tweet as your tweet of the week.
Right. Okay. I'll put forward a few, and then I'll say my favourite at the end. So, invert the wing. If you don't know invert the wing, get to know.
A Twitter goldmine, an absolute goldmine.
So he tweeted on the. If Eze collapses, I will be flying to London first thing the day after it collapses, and I will begin looking to organise the biggest protest ever, which I think is exactly what us Spurs fans needed after that happened. The next one is, so it's a woman, I'm going to show the screen, it says, Pov, if we can we all delete Twitter and do this? And it's a woman just reading the Bible. Tottenham Joe has put, no Ornstein #bombers in the Bible, unfortunately. Hard pass. He then, later that day, when Eze was announced going to Arsenal, he then tweeted, my life belongs to Jesus. But my favourite one is this Spurs fan account tweeted, I'm so drunk, #bruv. And Tottenham Joe tweeted, psst, psst, over here with some khakis.
Oh, that man is very funny. He does. Tottenham Joe, we're gonna mention you here on the podcast. We are all big fans. We've all been put on by Kyle. We will find you absolutely hilarious. I'm gonna move on though. You've put through 3 very good shouts. Obviously, your final one is your official shout for Tweet of the Week. And that is a phenomenal shout. But we're gonna go to Matt. What is your Tweet of the Week?
It's about Mr. Marinakis. I tweeted someone, I can't remember what it was, and then someone replied. In fact, that someone was James Sturp, so shout out to James, my striker on Pro Clubs. Mr. Marinakis is pleased to announce that Nuno Espirito Santo has had concrete blocks tied to his feet and been thrown in the River Trent.
Oh, that whole situation, by the way, is just a complete manufactured situation to give him an excuse to force out a manager that has been brilliant for them. Because but no, that's hilarious because you absolutely he's hit the nail on the head there. I'm sure Mr. Marinakis would be absolutely delighted to announce that. My tweet of the week is quite crude, I'll be honest. It's a Tottenham themed tweet, and I think it just shows Tottenham fans might be quite happy with how things are going right now. The original tweet from Tottenham Tears. Tottenham keep consecutive clean sheets in the Premier League for the first time since 2017. At _Joey with about 10 Ys tweeted, "You're 4 inches inside Cuti Romero, and Mickey van der Ven is 4 inches inside you. Are you moving forwards or backwards?" Okay. And I've got a reply here from at Hotspur Callum with 2 capital I's instead of the L's. 3.5 inches forward, then 3.5 inches backwards, repeatedly with increasing speed until I lose all feeling in my body. I just thought that was quite funny and really encapsulated how happy Tottenham fans really are right now. Absolutely insane from that Spurs fan. Just putting it out. People forget that you have a digital footprint and people can read these things and will continue to read them for years to come. I'm going to go ahead and say that my vote, personally, for Tweet of the Week, obviously we will put this to you guys as well in the comments and online on Twitter, etc. But my Tweet of the Week is probably Tottenham Joe with the car keys. Yeah, obviously not related to football, really, but that is absolutely. Look, we do not condone drunk driving, but drunk driving jokes can be funny occasionally.
I mean, this one, for example, the usual like Jeremy Clarkson like, on results day.
Oh yeah,
it's like
I saw this.
To everybody who didn't get what they wanted in their GCSE results, don't worry, I failed everything and now I'm Tottenham Joe on Twitter.
Absolutely spot on. So, you can always make the best out of a bad situation. We're going to swiftly move on after my crude tweet of the week, which, to be honest, might not even make it into the podcast in hindsight. But we're going to start with the More of a Six quiz, week 2. Can I get a cheer for the quiz? Can I get a cheer? Woo! No Henry this week to host, but I've come in firing with some brilliant questions. I'm going to give you 5 each. I actually, made 5 because I thought someone else would be joining us, but it ended up that way. I didn't really get verification. I kind of just, went on an assumption. But we're going to start with Kyle. Earlier on in the pod, I mentioned that Josh... this is your first question, Kyle, by the way. Just want to clarify. Question 1 for Kyle. Earlier on in the pod, I mentioned that Josh Cullen scored Burnley's first goal in the Premier League since his own strike 2 years ago in a 2-1 defeat on the last day. But who did Burnley play in that game? I did mention it. So
on the last day? Did you
last day 2 years ago when Josh Cullen scored.
I'm so bad at this when someone
You're not listening, mate. You're not listening.
You had the same thing last week as well. In fact, I was going to say as well with last week as well. You're probably due a bit of luck.
Yeah, you got robbed, mate. I wasn't here to say it. I haven't been here to say it, but I watched that back. Absolute robbery.
You could see why I was crashing out.
But we're gonna look in sportsmanlike fashion. We're not going to dwell on the past. We're going to move on. Yeah. This is a very prestigious quiz. So I'll repeat the question for you, and you can think again.
Go on.
Earlier on in the pod, I mentioned that Josh Cullen scored Burnley's first goal in the Premier League since his own strike in a 2-1 defeat on the last day 2 seasons ago. I also mentioned who they played that day. Who was it?
I'm going to guess Brentford. I don't know.
Okay, interesting. We're going to move on to question 2 for you. This one may be a bit easier, I think. More of a general knowledge kind of thing based on this weekend. Question 2 for you, Kyle. Max Dowman came on yesterday for Arsenal. I know you probably hate talking about Arsenal. Yeah. But becoming the second youngest player in Premier League history. Like I said, bit of an easier one. Who is the youngest? So Max Dowman became the second youngest.
I feel like he's beaten the record off of his Arsenal teammate.
He didn't beat. So I just want to clarify. I said he's the second youngest. So,
So,
but
like,
who is the youngest?
I think is it not Ranieri?
Okay, well, I'm going to take that that answer into consideration. I'm not going to say either or, but obviously, we wait till the end. I'm just going to get my phone out to jot down how you're doing so far.
Because I feel like he's only recently turned 18, hasn't he? And he's been around for a good few years now.
No, it's definitely an interesting shout, but we're going to move. We're going to move on to the third question. The third question for you is: I mentioned earlier on that Mads Hermansen had a performance to forget on Friday night as he conceded 5 against Chelsea. However, it's the third time in 10 months that West Ham have conceded 5 at home in a game and lost. This is quite a harsh one because I actually didn't mention earlier what the teams are against. So I'm going to slightly change the question. Who was in goal for West Ham in the other 2 games that they lost and conceded 5 goals at home?
Right. Well, I feel like one of them has got to be Fabianski, and the other 10 months. That would have been last.
I just want to clarify. I just want to clarify before you answer. And I'm not saying that necessarily it was, but it could be the same keeper in both games. That's all I'm going to say. It could be 2 different. It could be the same keeper in both games. I'm not. So you answer. You proceed how you want to.
Mate, you're giving it away.
Okay.
I suppose he's earned that, really, given last week.
I might just stick with Fabianski for both.
For both, yeah? Is that going to be your final answer?
I think so, yeah. You could have absolutely thrown me off massively here, but I'm going to go for that, yeah.
Okay. I've jotted that down. Okay. I'm going to... Actually, I did have a question for you, but like I said, I think that one was quite hard. So I'm going to actually go into the questions I prepared for Sam. Coventry City beat QPR 7-1 yesterday in an embarrassing performance for the away side. It's one of these. I mentioned earlier that the game commemorated 20 years at their home ground for Coventry, in which they beat QPR in their first game as well. But what was the score in that game? I did say earlier.
No, I know you said it earlier, but I was thinking I was thinking that you were going to say who was it against, or what was it commemorating? I'm going to say 2-1. I've got such a bad memory. Oh my god!
You got memory for goldfish, have you?
I've got such a bad memory. Wow.
Okay, is that your final answer?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. We're going to move on to the last question for you, Kyle. Number 5. Again, I'm going to dig into one of Matt's. Okay, here we go. Sorry. I'm not going to give you this one because obviously you weren't working together. I just looked at that and I've gone, actually, that's not fair. It wasn't just the Premier League, which had a lot of action yesterday. Again, I know you're working, but I did tell you guys in the break that you might want to pay attention. 2 championship teams had players sent off. Which 2 teams?
Oh my god.
Take your time. There's no rush.
And it was championship.
It was. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm bad. I feel like I'm stiffed yet.
I don't know. I don't know. Pass. I'm so... fuck.
Okay, you know what? And Matt, you can tell me if you want to agree with this, okay?
Okay.
Considering the absolute robbery last week, would you be willing for me to give Kyle a different question for the last one? Would you be willing?
Yeah, go for it. Go on.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair. This is like a lifeline.
Crazy
okay?
handouts right now.
Okay, this is like a lifeline, okay? Okay, this one is kind of a handout. No, actually, it's not. Actually, I'm going to make this harder for you. Crystal Palace faced Forest today at 2 p.m. and drew in a game which was labelled El Clasico. True or false? Palace haven't beat Forest in a competitive fixture at home in over 20 years.
Oh.
I know it's a trick, but it's a 50-50, isn't it? You know?
I'm going to say Well, they haven't. True. Or
So
false?
I'm saying, say they haven't beat Forest at home in a competitive game for over 20 years. True or false? So if you say true, they haven't. If you say
I'm
false, they
going
have.
to say. I'm going to say true.
Okay, I'll jot that down for you. All right, so that is your 5 questions, Carl. I'm not going to reveal to you how many you got yet. We're going to move on to Matt. All right, Matt, your first question. You've got a few in here that are kind of Brighton related. Just because I thought it'd be nice to stick to the theme. But I'm actually going to start with one that's quite hard, I'd say, but I think you can get this. Friday night. Your first question. Friday night, your old striker, João Pedro, notched 2 assists for Chelsea, a feat he only managed to match one time last season for Brighton. But who, in what game, against who, don't need home or away, last season, who did he get 2 assists in one game against?
Oh my god.
What team?
That is very tough.
Yeah, that is a bit of a mean one. But I think I thought you could get that. I know you watch every Brighton game, so I know you have it in you.
Yeah. And fun fact, actually, I can remember probably every result since 2020. So.
Fair play.
Oh, God, that is awful. I am going to go Southampton. Away.
Okay, I'm just going to jot that down. So we're not doing a. It didn't matter whether it was home or away, just so you know.
Yeah,
but I'm just going to jot that down. So we're now going to go to question 2 for you. Following Friday's nightmare result, Graham Potter now has a measly 23.8% win percentage as West Ham United manager. But my question to you is, was Julian Lopetegui's record last season worse or better than the Englishman?
Oh, very similar. It's got to be. Wow. I'm going to say better.
You're going to say better?
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to jot that down. My next question to you, I know you watched some games yesterday, didn't you? You were available? I just want to check because I don't want to give you an unfair question. Oh, did you watch Match Today? Did you watch the highlights of the games?
Yeah.
All of them? Okay, right. I think I can answer this now. I think this is fair. Burnley cruised through against Sunderland with a 2-0 win at home. However, prior to the 2 goals, they had one chalked off. Who scored that goal for Burnley?
Lyle Taylor. No, not Taylor. What's his name? Lyle Foster. I'm thinking of the ex-Wimbledon striker. I think it's Lyle Foster. Okay.
Is that your final answer?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to jot that down now. Right, question number 4. Lamine Yamal celebrated like his icon Jean-Philippe Mateta and kicked the corner flag yesterday for Barca. But what was the final score in their game against Almeria?
I don't have a clue. I think I did hear about it though. I think it was 4-3.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah.
You're gonna lock that in? Okay, yeah. That is locked in. On to your final question. I'm not gonna say anything, regarding like points or whatever. But this could be a question that could win you the whole thing. That's what I'm gonna say. Sorry. I've got to try and find one that I've not asked because I've jumbled it all up now. Okay, I've got a good one for you. Really good one. Eberechi Eze signed for Arsenal yesterday, making them the 2nd Premier League team he has played for. But can you name the 2 clubs he has made professional appearances for prior to his spell at Palace?
Wickham and QPR. That was easy.
Okay, right. Okay, so the results are in. I'm going to go through the questions one by one. Your first question, Kyle, was the Forest. There you go. The question about Burnley 2-1 loss. The answer was not Brentford; it was Forest. Yeah. So that's wrong. Yeah. The second question you got right. Ethan Nwaneri is indeed the youngest ever player in Premier League history. I've jumbled this up again, like I said. No, the third question, no, I do remember this. You went for Fabianski for both games, right? It was Fabianski and Ariona. I feel like I've done you there.
Fuck!
I feel like
Oh
I've
my
done you there.
God.
I feel like I've done you there.
No.
Right, hang on for a sec. As you know, I'm watching the Juve Parma game, and Cambiasso has absolutely lost his head and swatted someone. Who was it? Parma player, and he's been sent off.
Was he been sent off?
Oh my god! Like he loses.
Has he been sent off?
Yeah, and then it just elbows him in the face like after the ball's gone out. Anyway, carry on.
Oh God, Italian footballers, mate. Italian footballers. They've all got a temper. The fourth question I asked you, Kyle. I'm just trying to remember which one it was. Do you remember?
Not a clue, mate.
Was it the Coventry one? Coventry beat. Coventry. The answer was 3-0. Coventry won that game 3-0. You got a memory of a goldfish, didn't you? You've got the memory of a goldfish.
So bad.
The fifth question I asked you was the red cards, and then obviously you avoided it. And then I moved on to the which one was it? The Crystal Palace face their Forest later today, 2 p.m. kickoff earlier today. You were right. It is over 20 years since you beat them at home. 2003 was the last time you beat them at home. So you got 2 out of 5, Kyle. Obviously, you know, a decent show. You were so close. You were close though with that Fabianski one. And I almost feel bad because I feel like you were along the right lines and I threw you off.
Doubt in my mind.
I know. I'm sorry. I do feel bad for that. Matt seems a bit preoccupied, but he might want to hear his
Juve
quiz
just
results.
scored. Juve just scored. Vlahovic.
Did he get sent off?
No, that was Cambiasso.
Cambiasso.
Oh, yeah, Cambiasso. Yeah, straight red.
Did he got a red card and now Juve scored? Wow.
Yeah, they've just
fair
gone
play
down
to
there
them.
and scored. Wow. Anyway,
Fair play straight away. We're going to move on to your 5 questions. First question I asked you was the João Pedro one. You told me that it was against Southampton. You were wrong. It was against Aston Villa. He got 2 assists.
Oh,
got 2 assists,
for
yeah.
Dinger and Lamptey, yeah.
Yeah, and it was a 2-2 draw, I believe.
Yeah, that was
something along those lines.
dark era, but we were somehow getting results.
A dark
That was
era
good.
indeed.
That was
The second one I gave you was the win percentage, I believe. Lopetegui, Potter. Potter has a 23.8% win percentage. Lopetegui had a 31.8%. So you were right. You've got 1 out of 2 so far. The third question I asked you was the Burnley question. Goal before the 2 that was ruled out. You were right. It was Lyle Foster. So you're now 2 from 3. The fourth one I asked you was, of course, which one was it? The Barca question. Lamine Yamal celebrated like his icon, John Philippe Mateta, and kicked the corner flag yesterday for Barca. But what was the final score in their game against Almeria? It wasn't 4-3, it was 3-2. Almeria were 2-0 up, and Barca came back. Final question. You know you were right.
Yeah. That was easy.
I thought you might struggle with that more, not being a Palace fan. Would you have known that, Kyle, as well? Would you know?
Yes.
It was Akim Fenwa. Akim Fenwa was spoken about in plenty.
No.
Did you not see my face when you
I
said
know,
it?
I know.
Went like,
Yeah.
I know. So unfortunately, again, it might be a robbery. Kyle could have good reason to feel robbed once again, but it's another point to the quiz master, Matthew Avery. But I want you to know, Matt, that next week I won't be hosting the quiz, which means I'll be winning it. Okay, you've got some real competition coming. You have got some real competition coming.
Well, as long as you ain't got a memory like a goldfish like Kyle, then.
oh, no, it's so bad. I don't even know.
I did do a few tiebreaker questions. I'm just going to ask each of you one more question just for fun, just to see if you've been paying attention. I'm going to ask this one to you, Matt, because you watched the game. Obviously, not necessarily Raymond, but Iliman and Jai scored Everton's first Premier League goal today in their new ground. But who scored their last at Goodison? Do you know the answer?
Last at Goodison. Oh, that's tough.
They won the game 2-0 against Southampton.
2-0 Southampton. It was. I think they were both in the first half. That's really, really tough. I'm going to say Jai as well.
Oh,
You're right, it was. He scored a brace. It was him, Manajai.
Yeah.
And yours, Kyle, against a more general run. Today, Crystal Palace unveiled a banner which depicted Forest owner Marinakis, sorry, my bad, Mr. Marinakis, holding a gun to Morgan Gibbs-White's head as the midfielder said, Mr. Marinakis is not involved in blackmail, match fixing, drug trafficking or corruption. This isn't the first time Palace have called out another team's owners with a tifo. Who have they called out previously? Don't think about it too much.
Probably Brighton then, innit?
Just think about it logically. Think about it logically, Kyle.
Can I answer?
After.
What? Charlie, listen. Right, I'm not a Palace fan.
No, I know.
I don't look at the stadium.
But I don't think this is a hard question. Regardless, who else has pretty dodgy ownership in the Premier League that's been criticised over recent years?
Newcastle, sorry.
Yeah, correct.
Would it be
Newcastle? It was Newcastle. It was about the PIF and the beheadings.
I was going to say Palace's owners. You've called out your
No, that was that was an away game though. That was an away game, so it's not the full thing. Anyway, this has all become jumbled up. I've got carried away being the quiz master. It's an exciting day for me, host, and it's not going to happen again for a while. We're going to end it here, guys. Thank you very much for tuning into this unconventional episode of the More of a Six podcast. Make sure to subscribe if you're watching on YouTube and leave a like on the video. And if you're listening on Spotify, please leave us a 5-star rating. It goes a long way, and I think we deserve it. So we have a long day of football watching that we've just had. We're all quite tired. So we're going to go, and we hope you enjoyed. And we will see you next time, hopefully, with more of the boys back. Thanks very much, guys. We'll see you soon. Bye.